you think it's a sin to have same-sex marriage.
I mean, I'm confused. Are you asking me as a religious Jew what I think about biblically?
I'm just asking, is it a sin to be gay?
Is it a sin to be gay? I mean, how long do we have here? 2 minutes? I mean, if the basic idea is that sexual orientation is up for government regulation, I'm not in favor of the government regulating the private consenting sexual activity of adults. That is a different thing, once again, from whether the government ought to engage in actual benefits for particular sexual arrangements that adults make.
But again, just you to me, is it a sin?
Hot clash. It's a sin to be gay. Ben Shapiro makes his position firm to Swalwell in heated debate. And what happened next left the entire room on edge. When pressed under oath and put on the spot about faith, marriage, and morality, Shapiro didn't back down, didn't apologize, and didn't flinch. In a political climate where most people cave under pressure, this moment turned into a defining showdown over religious freedom, free speech, and the future of traditional values in America.
Mr. Swalwell.
Thank you. Mr. Shapiro, thank you for joining us today. I think it is important that you're here as one of the leading conservative voices in the country. And the country has, in the last couple weeks, talked a lot about and Googled Project 2025. It's one of the most Googled search terms right now. And you're not going to get any censorship from me. So I just wanted to know, from your perspective, I think it would help us understand, on just like a scale of 0 to 100%, how much do you support Project 2025?
I think, like President Trump, I haven't looked all that deeply at Project 2025, but it seems that Democrats on this committee, sort of like Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, if they say Project 2025 enough, their presidential candidate becomes alive again.
And so, well, let's just talk about pieces of it, and I guess you can tell me if you support it. You probably want less bureaucracy, right?
I do.
I want less bureaucracy. You want more efficiency?
I do.
I want more efficiency. You want taxpayer money spent wisely?
I do. Congrats on becoming a Republican.
Yeah. Yeah. My parents would be proud. Mass deportations, it calls for that. Do you support that part?
I support the deportation of any illegal immigrant who's in the United States who is not of benefit to the generalized American public.
So if they're picking agriculture that puts food on the tables of everyday Americans, they've never committed a crime inside the United States, they didn't come across with documents, should they be deported?
If they have not paid taxes and if their draw on the taxpayer benefits are larger than the contribution they are making to the economy, or if they're involved in criminal activity, they should be deported.
How do we measure that?
The same way that the IRS measures my income every year. It seems like if the IRS can track down every aspect of every receipt that I've ever submitted, and they can do so for hundreds of millions of other Americans, they can do that for illegal immigrants as well, except for the fact that no one knows how many are in the country thanks to this administration.
So you would be cool with creating a system where they could pay those taxes if they wanted to, and then stay and work and put food on our table?
It depends on how long it would take for them to pay the taxes, and they would also have to go presumably to the back of the line, although I'm not sure why I'm testifying about immigration policy at this point.
How about banning the abortion pill? That's part of Project 2025. Do you support that part?
I think that that's a state-by-state issue on a personal level.
I'm just asking you.
Sure, I'm a fully pro-life person, which means that I'm not in favor of the distribution of the abortion pill.
Banning same-sex marriage, what about that part?
I am in favor of traditional marriage between a man and a woman, and I'm perfectly fine with anyone having any sort of voluntary sexual arrangement they seek. That's a different thing from whether the government should attach benefits to that personal relationship.
But you think it's a sin to have same-sex marriage?
I mean, I'm confused. Are you asking me as a religious Jew what I think about biblically?
I'm just asking, is it a sin to be gay?
Is it a sin to be gay? I mean, how long do we have here? 2 minutes? I mean, if the basic idea is that sexual orientation is up for government regulation, I'm not in favor of the government regulating the private consenting sexual activity of adults. That is a different thing, once again, from whether the government ought to engage in actual benefits for particular sexual arrangements that adults make.
But again, just you to me, is it a sin or not?
From a religious Jewish perspective, orientation is not a sin, but activity is. That's also the same perspective of most major religions, so far as I'm aware.
Okay. And how about cutting Social Security? Do you support that part of 2025?
I'm not sure what Project 2025 2025's position on Social Security is. I'm in favor of the restructuring of Social Security along the lines of privatization and lowering and increasing the retirement age, because you, as well as every other congressperson, knows Social Security is going to go bankrupt, and yet everyone seems to have an interest in lying about it for the next decade and a half until we have to take austerity measures or radically increase inflation or taxes.
And bans against books about slavery. Do you support that part about?
Why would I possibly be in favor of bans about books about slavery? That would be absolutely ridiculous. What I am in favor of is the idea that school libraries should be able to make decisions along the lines of what exactly is appropriate for, say, a 7th grader and whether they ought to be treated to cartoons and genderqueer. That's not quite the same thing.
And just because we found some receipts, you did say, I think homosexual activity is a sin.
Yes, I'm a religious Jew, that's
sure
true.
There's a genetic component.
You found me out.
Orientation. But the view of all religious people I know has always been that sexual behavior is something that is up to you. And you said, I may have a desire to sleep with many women, but I do not.
I agree with me. Yes, that's true.
Congratulations on your, I'm sure it's very hard to restrain yourself. Mr. Chairman, I just want to shift to Alvin Bragg. He was supposed to be here this week, and he's not coming. And Hunter Biden was supposed to testify. Now he's not testifying. We were supposed to have votes on articles of impeachment, and we didn't. And again, we're just wondering, you guys write great press releases, but the payoff seems to never come. And so I guess we will keep waiting, and we'll do hearings like this. And finally, Chairman, you cannot yell fire in a crowded theater, and that's a restriction on speech, as you have recognized before. But you can yell theater in a crowded fire, and you all can continue to do that all you want, and we'll just waste the American people's time.
Gentleman's time has expired, and I remind him of the first rule of holes. When you're in one, stop digging. Chair recognizes Mr.
If you believe in free speech, religious liberty, and the right to stand by your convictions even when the mob doesn't like it, make sure you hit that like button right now, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because what you're about to see is exactly why voices like this matter more than ever in America today. This was supposed to be a takedown. That's clearly what Representative Eric Swalwell had in mind when he began rapid-firing questions at Ben Shapiro during this hearing. The framing was obvious from the start. Bring up Project 2025. Tie it to Trump. Force Shapiro into sound bites. Push him into controversial territory. Get a viral clip. But instead of folding, instead of apologizing, instead of dodging, Shapiro did what very few people in that chamber are willing to do anymore. He answered directly and stood firm. Let's start with the headline moment. Swalwell zeroed in on religion and same-sex marriage. He pressed and pressed, trying to corner Shapiro into a simplified, weaponized line. Is it a sin to be gay? That was the question. And here's what's important. Shapiro did not say that orientation itself is sinful. He made a clear distinction rooted in traditional Jewish and broader Abrahamic religious teaching. Orientation is not a sin, but certain conduct, according to religious doctrine, is considered sinful. That is a theological position shared by millions of Christians, Jews, and Muslims worldwide. Now think about what was happening here. A sitting member of Congress was essentially interrogating a private citizen about his religious beliefs, trying to paint them as disqualifying. That should concern every American, regardless of party. Because once government officials begin suggesting that holding traditional religious views is unacceptable, we are no longer debating policy. We are debating whether faith itself has a place in public life. Shapiro was very careful to draw another critical line that the media will likely ignore. He said he does not support the government regulating the private, consensual activity of adults. That is a limited government position. He distinguished between personal religious morality and what the state should or should not enforce. That nuance matters. But nuance doesn't trend on social media. Outrage does. Swalwell didn't stop there. He pivoted to mass deportations. Shapiro responded by arguing that illegal immigrants who are net drain on taxpayers or involved in criminal activity should be deported. That's not radical. That's basic sovereignty. Every nation on earth enforces immigration law. But again, the goals seem to be framing rather than understanding. When asked how contributions could be measured, Shapiro pointed out that the IRS somehow manages to track the finances of millions of Americans down to the receipt. The federal government has no shortage of bureaucratic power when it wants to use it. On abortion, Shapiro made it clear he is personally pro-life but believes many abortion-related decisions are currently state matters. That is consistent with the post-Dobbs legal landscape. On Social Security, he acknowledged what politicians in both parties often refuse to admit, The math does not work long term. Privatization and raising the retirement age are controversial ideas. Yes, but pretending insolvency is not looming is not leadership. It's denial. And then came the predictable accusation about book bans. Shapiro flatly rejected the idea that he supports banning books about slavery. Instead, he argued that local school libraries should decide what is age-appropriate for children. That is not censorship. That is parental oversight and local control, principles conservatives have defended for decades. What struck me most in this exchange was not the heat. It was the contrast. Swalwell leaned into sarcasm and rapid-fire questioning designed to create clips. Shapiro leaned into argument. He explained his views. He defended them. He didn't apologize for his faith. And he didn't call for the government to punish people who disagree with him. Here's the bigger issue. In today's political climate, holding traditional religious beliefs is increasingly portrayed as extremism. If you believe marriage is between a man and a woman, you are labeled hateful. If you believe life begins before birth, you are labeled oppressive. If you believe immigration laws should be enforced, you are labeled xenophobic. That rhetorical escalation is intentional. It is designed to silence debate. But America was built on debate. It was built on the idea that free citizens can hold competing moral visions without the state crushing one side into submission. You don't have to agree with Ben Shapiro's theology to defend his right to express it. And once that right erodes, it won't stop with one religion or one ideology. This hearing was about more than Project 2025 or a viral moment. It was about whether deeply held religious convictions can still be spoken aloud in the public square without career-ending consequences. It was about whether disagreement automatically equals discrimination. It was about whether Congress is interested in serious policy discussion or political theater. From my perspective, Shapiro did exactly what more conservatives need to do. Stay calm. Be clear. Draw principled distinctions. Defend limited government. And refuse to let your opponents define your beliefs for you. If you believe America still has room for faith, freedom, and fearless debate, make sure you support this channel. Like this video. Share it with someone who needs to see the full context, not just the viral clip. And subscribe so we can continue breaking down these clashes with facts, logic, and a commitment to constitutional principles. Because the fight for free speech and religious liberty is not theoretical anymore. It is happening in real time, in hearing rooms just like this one. And it is far from over.